How rare is your body? Let's find out. About 60% of people have freckles on their eyes. It's also called a nevus, and it can appear on the colored parts of your eyes or even the white, and it can be a small little dot or it could be a huge one as well. It's thought that extended sun exposure causes these. However, if they're flat, they don't really pose any risk. About 1% of people are born without a nail, and this is usually a genetic condition where people are missing their entire nail, but there are times when only parts are missing. Only about 5% of people have rosy cheeks, and this is also called rosacea, and it's a skin condition that causes the visible blushing or flushing of the blood vessels in your skin, and this is different from just having naturally rosy cheeks. Less than 1% of people have an eyeball scar. This is also called a macular pucker, and it's when the vitreous pulls away from the retina and it can cause blurred vision. Facts that could save your life. Make sure to keep your doors closed when you're sleeping. If there's a fire when you're sleeping, there's a huge difference between leaving your door open versus keeping it closed. If you're ever scuba diving and feel like you have to vomit, don't take the regulator out of your mouth, just vomit straight into it. Because the natural inclination is to inhale after you vomit, so if you do that, you're going to inhale a ton of water. If a service dog ever comes up to you without its owner, follow it. They could be bringing you to their owner who could potentially be in danger or need help. If you ever need to break a car window, don't hit in the center, aim for the bottom edges here. Car doors are normally tempered glass, which means they're a lot more brittle along the edges. How rare is your body? Let's find out. About 28% of people have a dark limbal ring, which is this dark ring around the outside of your eye, and as you age, you're more likely to have one. Only about 5% of people have these back dimples, and these are more common in females than they are in males. Only about 4% of people have something called a talon's cusp, and you can see it right here on the back of the tooth. It's almost like a little talon or fang, and they're usually benign, and they're more common in males than females. Only about 33% of people are left eye dominant, and yes, you actually have a dominant eye. And if you want to test which eye you are dominant in, put your hands in a little triangle, put them out and center an object in it, and then close your left eye, and if the object stays centered, you're right eye dominant, and if it's the opposite, then you're left eye dominant. This image right here can reveal a lot about your personality. Real quick, pause the video and choose which one of these represents you the best. This is gonna go quick, so be ready. So if you chose 1, 3, 6, or 7, you're a motivated person who's not afraid of obstacles. If you chose 2, 11, 12, or 19, it means you're a sociable person who enjoys helping others. If you chose number 4, you have a stable lifestyle and want to achieve all of the success in the world without all of the difficulties. If you chose 5, you're tired and feel like you have little power and motivation. If you chose 8, you get lost in your thoughts and live life in your own little world. If you chose 9, you're a happy person who seeks out fun. If you chose number 10 or 15, you're usually a little bit quiet, but you adapt well to changes in life. If you chose 13 or 21, you're blocked by internal conflicts and have trouble relating to other people. If you chose number 14, you feel like you're falling into an emotional abyss or have an internal conflict. If you chose 20, you're a born leader who has high self-esteem. If you chose 16, you're tired of having to support other people, but if you chose 16 and saw 17 as a positive, you're likely to know you are surrounded by attention. If you chose 18, you feel like your life is balanced, but things could be better. If you chose 17, you're a good friend and prefer the certainty about what you currently have over an expectation of what you might have. Let me know in the comments which one you guys got. I got number 10. How rare are your eyes? Let's find out. Brown eyes are the most common, with anywhere between 55 and 79% of people worldwide having brown eyes. Only about 9% of people have blue eyes, and blue eyes are actually the most sensitive to light. Blue eyes have less melanin, which helps block out sunlight and is the reason they're the color they are. Only about 2% of people have naturally green eyes. Every baby is born with either brown or blue eyes, and it can take 6 months to 3 years for a baby to develop green eyes. Only about 5% of people have amber eyes, which is this yellow, gold, brown look, and it's a lot more common in the animal kingdom than it is in humans. Less than 1% of people have naturally gray eyes, and gray eyes are more common in women than they are in men, and sometimes blue and gray get mistaken. How rare is your body? Let's find out. About 18% of people bruise easily, and people with fair skin tend to bruise more easily, and as you get older, your blood vessels weaken and your skin thins, and it makes it easier to bruise. 12% of people dream in black and white. Dreaming in black and white is a lot more common for people who are 55 and older, and one study found that in 1940, before color television, 75% of people dreamt in black and white. About 33% of people have a widow's peak, which is just this little V shape right here. And widow's peaks tend to be genetic and run in families. About 10% of people have eczema, and it's generally characterized by rough, inflamed patches of skin, and there's many different types. However, there's no actual cure for it as of right now. Things you didn't know actually have a purpose. Bubble bath isn't just invented so you can make a Santa beard in the tub. Its original purpose is to sit on top of the water and keep the water insulated so it stays warm longer. Next is the bottom oven drawer, and it's not just for storing pots and pans. It was originally intended to be used as a warming drawer in order to keep food warm until the rest of your food is ready to serve. Bristles or brushes on the side of escalators are not there for you to polish your shoes. There's safety features to keep your bags and clothes away from the side skirts of the escalator so nothing gets caught or tugged. Starbucks lids aren't just lids, they can be used as coasters to place and kind of secure your drink on. The end of a measuring tape has a couple of purposes. You can score the wall with it on anything soft to mark instead of having to get a pencil, or the little end you can hook onto a nail or screw to make measuring easy. Mandela effects that'll make you question everything. In the Three Little Pigs, most people remember the wolf saying, "I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house down." However, that's not actually what he says. He says, "I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house in." Next, most people remember the little text in the bottom of a car mirror saying objects in mirror may be closer than they appear, but that's not actually what it says. It actually says objects in mirror are closer than they appear. Next, most people remember Richard Simmons wearing sweatbands. However, he never actually did. There's even Halloween costumes of him with sweatbands. And if you try and find a photo with him with sweatbands, it's pretty much impossible. Most people know the phrase bucket list, right? Well, this phrase wasn't used until 2007. Most people remember using the phrase before 2007, but it was never used until the Bucket List movie, which did come out in 2007. The deceitful way food commercials are actually made. Glue is used as melted chocolate. Usually they'll add food coloring to this and mix it up in order to make a melting chocolate cake that does not actually melt. Slime is used as the cheese in grilled cheese. Usually food coloring is added to slime to make the cheese look very stringy when it's pulled apart. Crushed Orbeez are used as fake ice. Adding water to the Orbeez and then smashing them down creates a fake ice that will not melt. Shaving cream is used instead of yogurt in fruit parfaits, and this allows the layers to be separated better and it does not melt or get liquidy. Balloons are sometimes used and inserted into a turkey and then blown up in order to make the turkey look more plump. How rare is your body? Let's find out. About 80% of people have stretch marks, and tons of different things can cause these, like pregnancy, weight gain, growth spurts, weightlifting, etc. Anything that stretches the skin. And new stretch marks usually start out as bright red, but will fade to a light pink or white over time. Only 5% of adults have never had chickenpox. Most people who have had chickenpox will be immune to chickenpox for the rest of their life. However, it remains inactive in nerve tissues and can reactivate later in life, causing shingles. Only about 2% of people have something called aphantasia, and this is a phenomenon where you're not able to visualize imagery in your head. And this is a little example where if you're asked to visualize a red square and you close your eyes and think, what do you see? A red square, slightly, or do you see nothing? Only 3% of people have something called scoliosis, which is just an unnatural curve in your spine. And doctors still don't know what causes the main type of scoliosis. Mandela effects that'll make you question everything. First is the thinker statue. And when you think of the thinker statue, most people think he has a closed fist going like this. But in reality, he's always had an open fist. His hand is like this, not a closed fist. Next is Shaggy's Adam apple. Most people remember Shaggy having a very pronounced Adam's apple, but he's actually never had one. And some people attribute this to sometimes it looks like this when he's swallowing, but not very often. So we've all seen the "what if I told you" meme, right? Well, in The Matrix, Morpheus never says, "what if I told you?" And he actually never says it in any part of the trilogy as well, despite all the memes. Next is this candy, Mike and Ike's. Most people remember it being called Mike and Ike's, not Mike and Ike's. So we all ate these pizza rolls growing up. What are they called? Tostino's pizza rolls? Wrong. It's Totino's pizza rolls. How rare is your body? Let's find out. Only about 16% of people can make a roaring noise in their ear using their jaw. And they're able to do this because they can control a small muscle in their ear that normally deafens chewing. But when it's flexed, it makes that roaring noise in your head. Only about 4% of people have a club thumb, and this is when you have a thumb that is relatively 2/3 the size of a normal thumb with a wider nail bed. About 35% of people tilt their head to the left when they kiss, and it's thought that this might be caused by hormone levels being unevenly distributed in each hemisphere of the brain. Only about 32% of people are nearsighted, and this happens when your eye is an abnormal shape, and instead of focusing the light on your retina, it focuses it right in front of it. Only about 8% of people have flat feet, and there's many causes for this, but the main are overly flexible feet and a tight Achilles tendon. How rare is your body? Let's find out. Only 2% of people have something called visual snow syndrome, and this is what it looks like when you have it. It's a neurological disorder that's characterized by tiny flickering little dots that almost look like static or snow. 33% of people have an astigmatism. This is when the lens inside your eye has mismatched curves. Also, usually the reason lights might look blurry or fuzzy or have halos around them like in this picture. 40% of people have something called keratosis pilaris, and it causes rough, dry skin and usually these tiny little bumps, and it's most common on the upper arms, your cheeks, and your thighs. 2.6% of people have something called hyperphantasia, and this is a condition where you can see extremely clear and vivid images in your mind with little effort. And these images are usually able to be manipulated as if you're almost there. How rare are your eyes? Let's find out. Between 55 and 79% of people have brown eyes. And it's believed that the human race started out having brown eyes, but due to genetic mutations, other colors came about. Only about 9% of people have blue eyes. People with blue eyes are usually more sensitive to light than those with darker colors due to them having less melanin. Only about 5% of people have hazel eyes. And hazel eyes have a concentration of melanin around the outside of the iris, giving them a multicolored look. Only about 5% of people have amber colored eyes. And amber color eyes are a lot more common in animals than they are in humans. Only about 2% of people have green eyes. However, 86% of people in Ireland and Scotland have green eyes. Words you've been saying wrong your entire life. Butt naked. It's not actually butt naked, it's buck naked, referring to a male deer or goat because they are, of course, always naked. You've got another thing coming. It's actually you have another think coming. And this is used if you're wrong about something, someone might say, think again, or you have another think coming to tell you to think again. For all intensive purposes. It's actually for all intents and purposes. And this just means in every practical sense. Nip it in the butt. It's actually nip it in the bud. And it's actually a botanical term meaning to prevent a bud from developing into a flower or to take care of something while it's small. And the last one is hard as hell. It's not hard as hell, it's hard as hail, and that's pretty much self-explanatory. How rare is your hair? Let's find out. About 85% of people have black hair, and this is the most common worldwide, and it can sometimes look like a dark brown also. And people with darker hair tend to have more hairs per square inch on their head, so it tends to look thick and full. Only about 11% of people have naturally brown or brunette hair. And people with brown hair normally have medium thick hair strands, with very few having fine or coarse hairs. Only about 2% of people have naturally blonde hair, and natural blondes normally have more hair strands on their head. They have about 150,000, while brown and brunette normally have around 100,000. Only about 1% of people have naturally red hair, and red hair is a recessive trait that only occurs when the person has two copies, one from each parent, of the mutated gene. How rare is your body? Let's find out. About 10% of people have something called restless leg syndrome, and this is a condition that's characterized by an irresistible urge to move or shake your legs, and it normally occurs when you're sitting or lying down, and it can range in severity. Less than 1% of people have something called the jumping Frenchman of Maine, and this is characterized by an uncontrollable yet exaggerated response to being startled or scared. And people with this condition might yell, scream, throw their arms up, or throw things to an unexpected sound or even just a poke. About 40% of people have a difficult time swallowing pills. This normally comes from a fear of gagging, and oftentimes comes from a previous bad experience trying to swallow pills, which can cause the throat muscles to tighten up and make it even more difficult. About 20% of people have dyslexia. Dyslexia is a learning disability that can cause trouble with processing words and numbers. And it can range in severity, but someone with dyslexia might mix up the words left and felt, or now and one. And sometimes words blend together and spaces get removed. How rare is your body? Let's find out. Only about 20% of people have something called a torus palatinus. And this is a bony growth that grows on the roof of your mouth. And it can vary in shape and size, but it's most common in Asian women. Only 4% of people have a thick unibrow, 29% have some unibrow, and the rest have no unibrow. Less than 1% of people have telangiectasia, also sometimes called spider veins. These are small dilated blood vessels that appear near the surface of the skin, and the exact cause isn't known. In most cases, it's believed to be caused by chronic exposure to the sun or extreme temperatures. About 4% of people have something called Osgood-Schlatter's,
And it usually causes pain and swelling below the kneecap and gets worse with jumping, running, or anything that pounds the knees. The tendon that connects the shin bone to the kneecap pulls on the growth plate, and it's very common in younger people who are growing very quickly. And it normally goes away over time.
How rare is your body? Let's find out. Only 20% of people can experience ASMR, and ASMR is just a euphoric tingling sensation that you get from sound, and it usually starts in your scalp and moves down your back. About 75% of people have a deviated septum, and a deviated septum is a condition where the bone and cartilage is crooked in your nose and it makes one nasal passage bigger than the other. And sometimes this is visible, as you can see right here, but most of the times it's not. 94% of people have intrusive thoughts. Intrusive thoughts are just unwanted images, impulses, or thoughts you have that you can't control. And it's pretty normal to have these, the most common being when you're holding a baby, having the thought of dropping it. 6.5% of people say that they never dream. Although most of these people have reported dreaming at least once in the past, but 1 in 250 people say they've never dreamed even once. How rare is your body? Let's find out. About 10% of people have something called alexithymia, and this is when you have trouble feeling emotion. And people who have this usually describe themselves as having trouble feeling emotion, especially when it comes to happiness or joyous occasions when they feel like they should. Only 6% of people can vibrate their eyes back and forth. And this is just the rapid motion of your eyes back and forth, and it can actually be trained. About 2% of people cough when using a Q-tip, and this is called the Arnold nerve reflex, and it's when you stick something in your ear, it causes you to cough. About 50% of people have dandruff. It's a common condition that causes your scalp to start flaking, and it's more common in males.